What is going on, Giants fans? It's Jay Carr back with another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the future of the quarterback position for the New York Football Giants. So before we dive into the future of the quarterback position, I wanted to start with our current quarterback position, which is Eli Manning. I want to get this out of the way right at the beginning. Eli's probably the reason why he is the reason why I'm a Giants fan. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I am thankful for everything that he has done for our organization. Now, with that out of the way, I also don't think he's as bad as everyone else thinks that he is. I don't think he's the main problem. I don't think that he's the reason to blame for our woes and our crappy seasons over the past 2 years. However, he isn't the guy that he used to be. He's digressed a lot since his 2011 season. I think in 2015 was kind of the start of him going down. But something that was brought to my attention from a podcast I watched called Strong Opinion Sports. It's really good. I highly suggest you check out his channel. It really dives into a lot of analysis and things like that. Something that I like, at least. Something that was brought up in that channel was that when Eli throws to Odell, he is potentially worse than when he doesn't. And that made me watch the film as well. And I looked at it, and what I saw was a guy who read defenses and made all the right throws. And then when he was throwing to Odell, he forced everything. Now, if you look at Eli's stats through the years, it's actually slowly, progressively gone up over the last couple of years. Now, granted, they're small percents. However, it is still a little bit of improvement. What I see on tape, though, is a guy who can come in, play quarterback, and we can win games with him. The thing is, he's not, like I said before, he's not what he used to be. He's not the guy who's going to come in and throw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns every single game and be the reason why you win the game. He's what most people would call a game manager, where he can come in, he does what he needs to do in order for us to put up points, in order to put us in a position to win, but ultimately it's not going to be the reason why we win. With this, you need to look at something that I said on my mock draft video, is that you take a bad quarterback and you put him on a bad team, the team is still going to be bad. You're not going to make the playoffs with a terrible roster just because you have a good quarterback, no matter how good the quarterback is. You see it with Aaron Rodgers. You see it with Tom Brady is on a good team. Aaron Rodgers was on a pretty bad team last year, and they didn't make the playoffs. Russell Wilson is one of the players where his roster is absolutely terrible, but he carries his team. That's something that Eli's not going to be able to do. Looking at what we've had in the last couple of years, our offensive line has been god awful for I don't even know how many years. It's been so long that we've had a bad offensive line. I can't even remember the last time we had a good one. And with Dave Gettleman coming in and putting a lot of effort into trying to rebuild our offensive line, I think that helps. I think that's why you see Eli have a slightly better season this year. Looking at our defense over the last couple of years, 2016, it looked like our defense was one of the best in the league, and then we fell off a cliff. Since then, last year we let up the most amount of points in the NFC East, but we scored the most. So how are we going to score the most in the NFC East and then give up the most? We give up the most points. Obviously, that's our defense fault. There's been talks recently about Eli getting a potential contract extension. And honestly, a lot of people are going to be very, very mad about it, but I don't think it's such a terribly bad thing. Something that Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman said at the annual league meeting is that Eli's closer to 40-20, and everyone knows that. obviously, I know that as well. I do think that it's time for us to start looking for a plan and or have a outline of what we're going to do after Eli. But with the possible extension, I think that buys us time to at least have a little bit more time to figure out a more solid plan and be more set at the quarterback. Dave Gettleman is on record of repetitively saying that you don't reach on a quarterback. And I think that's something that needs to be really put into consideration, is that I believe that we shouldn't be reaching for a quarterback. I don't think we should be rushing to find a quarterback, and with a possible extension, that just gives us more time and a better opportunity to find a better quarterback for the future. I'd rather wait 2 years and have Eli for another year and a half or 2 years and find a solid quarterback than having to risk it on 4 different guys over the course of 7 years just to find that one. That's QB hell, QB purgatory. That's something that the Browns were in for decades, and then they finally got their guy in Baker Mayfield. So with all of that being said, let's look at all of the potential future options for the quarterback position for the New York Giants. I'm going to first start off with our in-house guy, someone we drafted in the 4th round last year, and that is Kyle Lauletta. Now, there's a lot of things to actually like about Kyle Lauletta. If you look at his tape from college, it looks really good. He looks like a solid quarterback. People from last year's, I remember hearing all the gossip from last year's draft talking about how Kyle Lauletta might be the most underrated quarterback prospect since Tom Brady. He's got a good arm, and he can make a lot of throws. The problem is with him that I have is that he, even though his college tape was really good, the level of competition in this in his college league was not very high. He didn't go up against the SEC. He didn't go up against Bama, LSU, and all these top tier defenses in the NFL. Georgia is another one just to point out. So he didn't do that. He's from a very small school with not a lot of competitive status. Granted, he did have the physical skills and the tape looked good. It wasn't against high level guys, and it kind of showed when he played in the preseason. It didn't look all that great when he played against the Redskins to come in as Eli's relief. It didn't look all that great. Granted, there were small sample sizes, but it just wasn't anything to really get you out of your seat and say, "Oh, Kyle Lauletta is finally starting. He did good." He didn't do terrible. He didn't do that bad, but he didn't really wow me at any point. It didn't make me think, oh, that could be our quarterback of the future. So I just see him as unproven. I'm not hearing anything from the organization raving about him, and that's really what it comes down to. Is I feel like if the organization believed that he was the future of our franchise, they would be saying, we have Kyle Lauletta. We believe he's going to be our heir apparent to Eli Manning. No one's saying anything. No one's backing him up on anything. So that's just making me believe that they don't know. They have no clue about Kyle Lauletta. They were just taking a shot in the dark, and they're not seeing what they thought they would see and what they hoped to see. I could be wrong about this, but as of right now, I'm going to say that Kyle Lauletta is not the future of our quarterback position. So moving on from Kyle Lauletta, I'm going to go into what most people would probably consider their favorite option, and that's going to be the 2019 draft. So in this year's draft, I consider 3 quarterbacks to be possible heir apparents. And that's going to be Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, and Daniel Jones. I'm going to start with Dwayne Haskins because he seems to be everybody's favorite, or at least the majority of people's favorite of this year's draft. Outside of Kyler Murray, I don't think Kyler Murray's going to be there for us. That's why I didn't put him on this list. Plus, I don't think that he would really fit our offense that well. But looking at Haskins, there's a lot to like about Haskins. I think that he has very good, what I would call, coachability. We see him improve a lot throughout the season. That just lets you know that he's going to be able to be coachable. You're going to be able to tell this kid to do something different, or tell him how to fix this, fix that, and he's gonna listen. He's gonna soak it up like a sponge. He's gonna learn. He's also very good at moving inside the pocket and navigating. It's not something you see from a lot of college quarterbacks nowadays, but his pocket awareness and his ability to maneuver in the pocket is really good. He's a pocket passer. And he also has an above average arm. I would say it's not the best arm in this class. We'll get to that very soon. I think that's Drew Lock and Kyler Murray probably have the two best arms in the class, but he's not far behind them. There is a few things that do kind of worry me, though. One is that he's not 100% proven. You don't know exactly what you're going to get, and that's just because he has only 1 year of film. He only has 1 year of starting under his belt. He's only played 13 games compared to someone like Drew Lock, who has multiple seasons. Someone like Daniel Jones has multiple seasons, and other players are going to have multiple seasons. He's only got one. And what that is kind of, what the vibes that kind of gives me is that he could possibly be Big Ben, maybe a little bit better than Big Ben throughout his career, or I don't even know how low his flow could possibly be. It's hard to predict because, like I said, his sample size of games is so little that it's just so hard to get 100% read on him. Now, the second thing that worries me about Haskins is he had a really good wide receivers at Ohio State. And that means that his stats are going to be buffed a little bit. He's going to be throwing short routes, and they're going to be taken for long distances, and it's going to be majority of the receivers' work. But he still threw for 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. That's not something that you're just going to get out of the blue out of some bad passer. It's just saying that his stats were buffed a little tiny bit due to his good receivers. Now, in all, I think Haskins would be a good option. I don't think he's the best option. I think if the Giants were to take him at 6, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't even be upset. I'd be okay with it. I'd be content. There's other options that I'd like better. More specifically, I'd like us to go defense with the number 6 overall pick. I think that's the most important part of our team that we need to address, and with the number 6 overall pick, there's just absolute studs on defense in this year's draft, and that's just something that I personally believe that we should be doing with our 6th overall pick. I think there's other options outside of Dwayne Haskins that will end up working, and it's just, I think Haskins, as much as I do like him, I don't think he's worth that number 6 overall pick when you're comparing him to other options that we have. So moving on to Drew Lock. This is a quarterback that, after watching more film, I do like a lot more than when I first started. Just watching a little bit of film now and then, I didn't really like Drew Lock, and then as I started watching more film on him, I liked him a lot more and more and more. Again, though, the problem is he has really high highs and very, very low lows. When he's playing his best, he makes you think he can be the next Patrick Mahomes. Now, people before this season were comparing him to Patrick Mahomes as a prospect, being that he has a big arm, lots of talent, occasionally makes bad reads and is overly aggressive, but the physical skill is there with the arm and everything like that. Granted, Patrick Mahomes, I don't think anyone would compare him to him now because of the season that he's had. I'm still going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes as a prospect. With Patrick Mahomes as a prospect, he was a lot better as a prospect, but I think Drew Lock is very similar, and it's the most similar case that I'm going to make. I think Drew Lock has the best arm physically in 2019. I think Kyler Murray probably has the best arm overall because his accuracy and touch and stuff like that. But physically gifted, his arm and his ability to throw the ball, Drew Lock is going to take that for me in this year's draft. And that's just something like Patrick Mahomes, where when you're looking at him as a prospect, he needed guidance. He needed Andy Reid to be able to teach him how to make better reads, how to run a pro style offense and stuff like this. Drew Lock needs that. And under the right system, I can see Drew Lock being one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. The problem is, under the wrong system, in the wrong situation, I can see him out of the league in 2 or 3 years. It's just such high risk. There is a high reward. The number 6 overall pick should not be something that we use on Drew Lock. If he's there at 17, it's a possibility. I wouldn't be mad if we took him at 17. It's the same thing as Dwayne Haskins at 6, though. I'm not going to be upset. It's just there's better options. So next up in the 2019 draft is the guy that they call the Eli Manning clone, and that's Daniel Jones out of Duke. The reason why they call him the Eli Manning clone is that he's coached by Daniel Cutcliffe, the same coach from Eli Manning. He produces really good quarterbacks, and overall, I actually think Daniel Jones is probably the safest quarterback prospect in the draft. That's because after watching his film, he makes all the right reads. Just like Eli Manning, he's going to take what the defense gives him. He's not going to force throws. He can make the big-time throws, but he's not going to force them. He goes through his reads and his progressions really well, and he'll throw it short if that's what the defense is going to give him. He's not going to force anything. He has very good mechanics, and like I said, he can make all the throws that are necessary of an NFL quarterback. I think he can come in and start day one and be just fine. The thing about Daniel Jones that I don't like is I don't see him having a very high ceiling. I don't see him having, as though he is an Eli Manning clone, I don't see him being a 2-time Super Bowl champion, or at least a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Possibly he could be a two-time Super Bowl champion if he goes to the right team. But like I said, not an MVP, not the guy who carries us, not the guy who makes those plays and is the reason that we win. He's just not that guy. He's a very safe prospect with a very high floor, but just not going to be the guy that takes over the game. Granted, if we take him in the second round, I'm not going to ask for much more. I'd be perfectly fine with that as long as we're building up our defense and we have a dominant defense for years to come, and that we can wreak havoc on defense, and Daniel Jones can do all that is necessary to score his points. Again, though, I think there's better quarterback options. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be our guy. I wouldn't be mad if we take him in the second round. Same as the other two this year. It's just there's so much defensive talent. I think our first 2 picks, 6 and 17, or at least 2 of our first 3 picks, should be defense. Maybe one of those is offensive line. That's a very good outcome. Is 2 defensive players and now offensive linemen in our first 3 picks. I don't see the quarterbacks this year being that valuable to spend these picks on. Drew Lock is too risky. Daniel Jones is probably never going to be an elite quarterback. And Dwayne Haskins just has 1 year of film. It's hard to say that I want any of these quarterbacks more than the other options. I do like all 3 of these prospects. I'm just not in love with them. The reason for that is because I think the other options that are presented in next year's draft or through other options are going to set up our team to be better overall for a longer period of time and have a higher ceiling for our team by going a different route. Granted, these aren't the worst decisions that we can make. Drafting any one of these 3 players, like I said, I will be happy as long as the value's there. Haskins at 6, Lock at 17, Daniel Jones in the second round. I can't stress that this is a defensive heavy draft. And our defense is something that we need to work on. I think we need to build our team up and put our quarterback in a position to succeed. Josh Rosen was on a really bad team. He couldn't succeed because there was nothing surrounding him. Their defense was bad. Their offensive line was bad. Their supporting cast was bad. Baker Mayfield got put on a above average team with a pretty good defense with a good supporting cast and was able to make the most out of his opportunity. You don't have to be the best quarterback in the world to do that, but you just have to have a good team around you. All a good quarterback needs is just a supporting cast around him. Now, my favorite option personally is the 2020 draft. There's 3 quarterbacks in here that I consider top-tier prospects. That's Jake Fromm out of Georgia, Justin Herbert out of Oregon, and Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama. If you also want to throw in some other names that could possibly have a good season and end up being first-round picks, Jacob Eason, Sam Ellinger, Shea Patterson, and KJ Costello. I'm not really going to talk about those guys just because I believe these 3 guys are going to be the face of franchise guys. I'm going to start with Tua Tagovailoa. Starting off, first thing I notice is he has a above average arm. I'd say it's very good. It's one of the better arms in the class, and I'd rank it highly against the 2019 draft class. He plays with very high intensity, and he is very mobile. The thing that concerned me is similar to Dwayne Haskins. He's had a lot of help from his supporting cast. Jerry Jeudy's probably one of the best wide receiver prospects that we've seen in a long time. He's had him his whole career. He also has a few injury concerns, not too many to really stir me away, but it's just something to note. And also, the thing that worries me the most is in the 2 games that mattered the most this season, he kind of underperformed against Georgia in the SEC championship and against Clemson in the college football playoffs. Now, with that being said, he also pulled off the greatest comeback that I believe in college football history. Came in at halftime and literally took over the game against Georgia. It was absolutely amazing to watch. And I think he is a great player. I hope that he plays well in the NFL, and I wish him well. I am a Hawaiian-born human, I guess, person myself. So whenever I see people from Hawaii, I always have to root for them. But Tua it makes it easy for me to do that for Tua. He's a great player. He's a great guy. I can see him doing well on the next level. I can see him being Russell Wilson and just absolutely carrying a team on his back and being that game changer. The only thing is, I see him as Russell Wilson, but I can also picture him as Jamarcus Russell, being this player who's amazing in college, and as painfully it is to have these words come out of my mouth, I can see him flopping. I can see him being one of the biggest busts in the NFL draft. What this means is I don't think he's a surefire player. I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer 100%. He's not like Saquon Barkley or Baker Mayfield to me. He's not a guy that I'm saying is going to be 100% bust-proof. I do believe he will be a good player, and I do believe he will be an elite quarterback at the NFL level. He's the quarterback that I will be the most happy with us taking due to our ties with that we were both born in Hawaii. I like him more than all of the quarterbacks in this year's draft, and I think that he has better potential than all of them. Now, as much as I love Tua and as happy as I'd be if we were to draft him and make him the quarterback of our future, I don't think he's the best possible outcome for us. I think there is one, maybe two options that would be ultimately better. I think he is one of the best options for us. He's just not the top option and the best possible outcome. So now moving on to who I believe is going to be the best possible option for us, and that is Justin Herbert. Out of Oregon, I believe he's the best option for us. There's just nothing that I can find bad about him. Even him deciding to wait a year is going to benefit him. He's tall, he's mobile, and he's got a cannon of an arm. The closest person I can compare him to is if you were to take Josh Allen from last year's draft and have him have more production, better accuracy, better completion percentage, and just that's the closest thing I can think of. He would have been the best quarterback in this year's draft I Haskins and above Kyler Murray. Some would argue that he would be the best quarterback in last year's draft. I wouldn't go that far because I do like Baker a lot, but it would be tough, a tough matchup between the two. He has 4 years of film, or he's going to have 4 years of film when he does come out, which is something that you know what you're going to be getting. It's not going to be like Dwayne Haskins where you're going to have to take that risk of possibly this is who I'm getting. You know exactly who you're getting. He's a very good leader, being that he leads by example. He leads on field. He plays at a high level, and he gets his teammates to play with him. He doesn't yell and scream and do all the stuff that Baker Mayfield does, but he gets his team to follow him. And that's just something I love. I think that there's no knocks on Justin Herbert, and I think that he's going to be the best quarterback out of all of these guys that I'm going to talk about. I think he's going to be our best option, and I think that him waiting a year gives us time to build up a better defense. It gives us our last year of Eli on his contract. He can come in and start right away, or we can extend Eli's contract and give him 1 year, maybe 2 years, and have him teach Justin Herbert a little bit of the stuff that he doesn't know. That would be nice. I'd like to see that, having Eli play maybe a couple of games and be the starter and have Justin Herbert take over, have Eli start maybe our last home game of the season or last game of the season, whatever, and go out as a Cinderella story, and being able to retire and seeing someone take over after him. Granted, they do play under the same number, so that's going to be kind of awkward if we do get him. However, that's not something I'm really worried about. I think Herbert is the best possible option for us, and I'd be ecstatic if we got him. However, I am still going to continue to talk about all the other options that we have. And in the 2020 draft, there is another option. Jake Fromm is a phenomenal quarterback. He's got an above average arm, and he's fairly consistent. Something that I like personally, that doesn't really have anything to do with his gameplay, is you saw him on QB1 on Netflix, and on the show you see him step into that leadership role and be that guy for his team. You also kind of see the off-field side to him, and he's very, very likable. He's a guy that you want to root for. Something that I noticed on the show that kind of fell into his tape is that he's very consistent throughout most of his games, and then he just has one game that's just like an outlier. It's not peaks and valleys like Drew Lock. It's just very, very good, consistent, and then one game just hits and he just has a bad game. You see it in the show, you see it in the film. The thing is, though, he always bounces back. He doesn't let it sit and marinate and turn into a bad streak. It's just one game. With that being said, the other knock that I have on him is that he doesn't always finish out games. And I don't know if I blame this fully on him, but there's two big games against Alabama the national championships last year, Tua came in at halftime and absolutely stole the show. And then the SEC championship this year, Jalen Hurts came in and absolutely destroyed Georgia. Now, obviously, there is some blame on Georgia's defense for not shutting that down, but Jake Fromm and company didn't really score too many points and didn't make it easier on them and keep that lead. I'm not saying it's all his fault, but it's just something that you have to take into consideration. I'd be very happy with Jake Fromm. Like I said, he's a very likable guy. He's a guy that you want to root for. If you haven't watched the show, go watch it. Granted, I would still probably take Justin Herbert and probably still take Tua above Fromm, but I would take Fromm over any of the quarterbacks this year. Plus, it gives us that year to build our defense and build the pieces around our quarterback. Lastly, I'm going to quickly go over our last couple of options here. To start, we have Russell Wilson as a possible free agent pickup next year. We have Trevor Lawrence in the 2021 draft, and we have Josh Rosen via trade. So let's dive in first with Russell Wilson. So I thought it was kind of funny when the rumors first came out about how Sierra wanted Russell Wilson to move to New York and that she prefers the New York market and stuff like that. And then the contract deadline came out, and that was kind of shocking to me. What's he actually gonna do? Now, obviously, we're gonna find out in a couple of days here. Either the Seahawks are going to give him a big contract within the next couple of days, or he is going to say that, hey, I'm gonna be a free agent next year, or they're not gonna give him the contract and he's gonna stay with the team and end up getting a contract sometime during the season. In the unlikely chance that he does become a free agent, because I do think that Seattle will resign him, but on the unlikely situation that he does become a free agent, the Giants will have the cap space for a contract his size and of his caliber during the next offseason. We don't have Odell's cap money. We won't have Eli's cap space, and we'll be losing Olivier Verdens. I expect us to probably cut Janoris Jenkins. We won't have Snack's contract. We'll be freeing up a lot of cap space. I think we're supposed to have around like $90 million. So we can make room for Russell Wilson during next year. I'm pretty sure everybody here who watches football knows who Russell Wilson is. He's a proven quarterback who's been in the league multiple years. He's won a Super Bowl. He's gotten to a second one, almost won the second one. I would say he's a top 5 quarterback in the league, possibly top 3. I mean, he makes a bad roster a contender each and every single year. It's amazing how he does it. He has no offensive line. He has barely any supporting cast around him. The defense in the last couple of years has gone downhill, and they're still a playoff team. It literally blows my mind. Sometimes the things that he does is just incredible, and it's mind-blowing. Russell Wilson going to the Giants would be a dream come true. I still think Herbert's the best possible option, but Wilson is up there with probably, I'd put him around Tua's level of, if I'm ranking who's the best option for us. I think Russell Wilson's in there. I don't think he's above Herbert, because I think having Herbert on a 4-year contract for cheap and would be the best possible situation for the long run. Plus, we could keep Herbert a lot longer than we could keep Russell Wilson. It's just a couple extra years, I know that, but those last couple of years could be something great. Plus, since Russell Wilson does rely on his mobility, I think he'll have a little bit shorter of a career compared to Justin Herbert, who, yes, he is mobile, but he's also a big, really good thrower of the football. So as he gets older, he can progress and become more of a pocket passer when that's needed. Moving on to Josh Rosen. This is something that seems a little bit less likely every day now. It was something that I really wish happened, and that's because of the value. If we can get him for a second-round pick, that would be awesome. I think Rosen as a second-round pick compared to Daniel Jones as a second round pick, is the value for him is just amazing. He's still very, very young, and while he was in Arizona, the thing that everybody brings up, and that I think is true, is that he was on a very bad team. He had no one around him. Larry Fitzgerald may be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's on the end of his career. Christian Kirk was good, but he got injured very quickly. David Johnson didn't really do anything, and the Cardinals' defense was just non-existent. So, what else can you ask him to do? You watch him throw the ball, and he throws a very tight spiral. He throws the ball exactly where it needs to be. He's very, very accurate with it. He's a very smart player. He's a very smart guy. The only questionable thing, there's two things that I have that I question about him. Is one is his character, and everybody talked about this coming out of the draft, was does he have the drive to play? Does he really want to be here? Does he love playing football? And I think he does. I truly think that he does. And I think that he loves the game, because the game's very easy to fall in love with, and you don't make it to the NFL if you don't just absolutely love the game and want to put in the work to be there. But it is seen sometimes where he can be a little bit of a slacker, I guess, is the way that I'll put it. And the other thing is, I don't know if he can handle New York. I mean, that's another thing with his character, is that he tends to handle situations not in the best way. You saw him delete all of his Arizona Cardinal things, and he said that he was hacked. I don't know if I believe that. He seems to be very soft when it comes to the media, and that's just something that some guys are going to have. Like I said, though, I think he's a very great option. He's still very, very young. He's still got a very high ceiling. He's a great player. He was just on a very, very bad team. He was one of my top ranked quarterbacks. I think I ranked him behind Baker, and I think I ranked him behind Sam Darnold as well. But I think that he has the potential to be very, very good in the league. He just needs to fall into a better situation. And that's just not in Arizona. I honestly believe that Arizona will be drafting Kyler Murray, because the fit of Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury is just uncanny. The thing is, it's coming out that the Giants don't want to trade the second round pick, and I fully understand that. I think Rosen is a better quarterback than Haskins, and a better quarterback than Drew Lock and Daniel Jones. So I would definitely trade the second round pick, because that's greater value. I would possibly trade the 17th overall pick. It's not something I see management doing, though. And now it's time to talk about Trevor Lawrence, the guy who Colin Cowherd came out and said that he thinks he's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and would possibly rank him above him. The only thing I can say is there's only like 11 games on Trevor Lawrence. However, he looks like the greatest quarterback prospect that I've ever scouted. I would put him above Andrew Luck easily. Even though I wasn't scouting back then, I went back and watched Andrew Luck's college tape. Trevor Lawrence, from his 11 games, looks absolutely phenomenal. He's the second true freshman to win the national championship behind Tua. And he probably had the greatest true freshman season in the history of college football. The thing is, there's two things. Three things if you count 1 year of film. Is he still has 2 years left before he's eligible. That means we literally have to wait 2 more years with Eli. And now I don't mind that. A lot of fans might not like that. And the thing also with that is you're not. I don't know if I want to bank on landing Trevor Lawrence that far in the future. It's different if I'm saying, okay, let's wait till next year to get Tua from or Herbert. Let's wait till the year after that to get Trevor Lawrence. Something could happen. He can get injured. He could just flop next season. You don't know. I hope that he doesn't get injured. I hope that he has a great career. He's a really good kid, and he plays at an amazing level, and I think he'll absolutely change the league if he continues to play at the level he's at. It's just you can't bank on him being as good as he is in 2 years from now. The other thing is that Justin Ross and T. Higgins may be one of the best wide receiver duos in college football history, outside of maybe Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. I think those two receivers are going to be stars at the next level, and that just helps Trevor Lawrence a lot. But Trevor Lawrence gets the ball exactly where they need the ball to be. And I think that the reason why they may be so dynamic is because Trevor Lawrence is an absolute stud of a prospect at quarterback. He picked apart Alabama, one of the best college football defenses over the last 10 years or so. He absolutely picked them apart, making it look like it was nothing during the national championship game, and that's on a big stage. So Trevor Lawrence is someone that I absolutely love as a prospect as of right now. It's just I don't know if I want to wait 2 years. I just can't bank on him being as good as he is right now as he is in 2 years. I hope that he is. It's just not the best option because you have to wait so much longer. Obviously, I think that with Colin Cowherd, I think that he is probably going to be the best quarterback prospect that we've ever seen. And it's just amazing what he's going to do. I'm excited for him to come in the league, but like I said, I think the Giants will address their future before Trevor Lawrence enters. Also, with having to wait 2 years, we're going to have to extend Eli's contract. And if we're saying, okay, we're waiting until at least 2021, then we're probably going to have to pay Eli more money than I would like. I want Eli to retire a Giant, but I don't want to overpay him. I think he's overpaid a little bit this year for being a game manager. However, I can kind of deal with it. If we were to pay him that much for the next 2 years after this, I don't know if I'm okay with that. But let me go over a final ranking of how I would put the situations, just to give you a perspective of where I put Trevor Lawrence. I would have Justin Herbert as our best option. Then I would probably put Tua after thinking about it. Then Russell Wilson. Then Trevor Lawrence. And then Jake Fromm, Josh Rosen, and then all of the 2019 quarterback class. Granted being Haskins, Locke, and Jones, depending on the value right there. I would put Lawrence behind Wilson for the sole reason that Wilson is proven. I'd put him behind Tua and Herbert because they are elite quarterbacks that I think will be that are almost close to being guaranteed to be franchise guys and give us an opportunity to only have Eli for one extra year, not multiple. Besides that, I think Trevor Lawrence will be the best quarterback out of all these guys that we talk about. It's just the fact that you have to give up a lot more to get him. You have to bank on him being there, and that's the only problem at the end of the day. So if you like the video, go ahead and leave me a comment. Go ahead and like it, subscribe, and I'll be back for more very soon. Thank you guys for watching.